Watch it now.
A very good day, Dr. Saied, Minister of Planning and Economic Development. It's our utmost pleasure to have you in today's very important conference, which is, of course, the nation's story. Dr. Saied, yesterday you played a very, very important role in this conference, and you were one of the main figures that gave a speech, a very important speech about the achievements about housing and planning. Could you tell us more today, please?
Thank you very much, and good afternoon, everyone. Yesterday, I just talked about Egypt's Vision 2030. What are the Egypt's accomplishments in this vision? What have we achieved so far? So the Vision 2030 is, which was launched in 2016. His Excellency, the President Sisi, launched this vision. It's the national vision of the Agenda 2030. It's very important to note that after we are now halfway from achieving the 2030 agenda. So it's very important to note that this year, this September, when we were in the SDG summit at the UN, the Secretary General announced and said that we need a security plan. The whole world is witnessing unprecedented challenges, from the COVID-19 to the geopolitical challenges to the climate disasters that are happening all over the world. He said we need a rescue plan, we need that, and it is important to note that only 12% of the 2030 agenda of the SDGs have been achieved, 38% deteriorated, and about 50% of the targets are off track. So when we look to this circumstances or this status of the world, of other countries, where do Egypt stand in this agenda? Egypt is one of the countries that are 26 countries that are really committed to the 2030 agenda. We are committed to achieving sustainable development plans, and this has been very clear in His Excellency the Prime Minister's presentation and in my presentation of what we have achieved. We were very committed to the socio-economic development in terms of investing in infrastructure, investing in health, investing in education, and also in the governance and in investing in human capital. We're a country that we're 105 million population. 60% of this population are under the age of 35, so we are a very young population. Although the increase in population puts a lot of pressure in your development agenda, however, we are capitalizing on the demographic dividend. The demographic dividend, which is the youth and our intellectual capital. That's why it's very important that we have invested in the human capital. This all have resulted in a lot of positive outcome, whether in the economic growth, whether in the unemployment rates, because economic growth is important, but it's not enough. It's not sufficient. You have to look on two things. First, where did this growth come from? It came from different diversified sectors. It did not come from one sector. And the other thing is the impact of this growth on the employment rates, because you need to provide decent jobs for our people. That's why our employment rate was 7%, and it came from different sectors in the economy. And then we talked about our vision in these unprecedented challenges and these multiple shocks. These are external shocks. So how can we tackle these external shocks? Whether in our new structural development plan, we're focusing more now on the structural agenda, on the real side of our economy, to make the economy more resilient to shocks. We're focusing on the industry, on agriculture, on ICT, in addition to other sectors that we have a competitive edge, which are the tourism and the logistical corridor. Also, we are with the increase in the population, we have launched the new family development program that we are working on. Have birth control on one side, yet we are also investing in the characteristics of people on the other side. The third important pillar is increasing the role of the private sector. It was necessary during the period after the 2014 to invest heavily in our infrastructure, and the country, the state was ready at that time to invest in our infrastructure for two main reasons. One, to provide quality of services for our people, and the second, to make the infrastructure attractive for the private sector. No private sector would have come when you had electricity cuts. No private sector will come if you don't have a network, a proper network of road, a proper network of airports and of course of ports. So it was very important to invest in our infrastructure and to make it attractive for the private sector. Now we're leaving the stage more to the private sector. We're giving the private sector more space to invest and provide them with all the incentives through different steps that the government has taken, whether the state ownership policy, the different incentives that the investment council that have provided, or through establishing the Sovereign Wealth Fund of Egypt, which is an investment arm of the government. Its main role to crowd in the private sector, not to crowd out the private sector. We partner with the private sector through different vehicles that the Sovereign Fund provides, whether through management, concession, or through providing a certain divestiture of certain assets.
Okay, Dr. Hele, as of course one of the main ministers in this cabinet that is playing a pivotal role since you took office, could you please highlight on today's sessions? And of course today we had the Minister of Population, and we had the Minister of Transportation, and both of them highlighted on the achievements that took place. Of course, I don't want to take too much of your time, and thank you very much for your time, but please a quick summary.
This session, we had two important sessions, the Ministry of Housing and the Minister of Transportation. They both talked about how the deterioration that was in our infrastructure before 2014, how there was deterioration in the ports, in the road network, whether we did not have enough housing, and having proper, decent housing is one of the rights of our people, of the development rights of our people, to provide them not only with food, but also to provide them with decent housing. Shelter is very important for the socio-economic rights. So how was the gap? They described and they elaborated how was the gap and how did we offer decent housing for our people.
Dr. Hele Saied, it was our utmost pleasure to have this very informative information from you. It was, you made my day today. Thank you very much for this very intellectual interview. Thank you very much for having and giving us out of your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Well, on the sidelines of the second day sessions of Story of a Nation.